All right, here you have this structure, this big structure. This is called as a foramen, this one, right? This is a foramen, and this foramen is called as the foramen lacrima. And through the foramen lacrima passes which nerve? Great petrosal nerve that passes to the foramen lacrima. Then you see here you will have some oval shaped structure called as this. You can see this one. This is oval shape, and this is called as the foramen ovale. As it is oval shape, so that is why it is called as the foramen ovale. And through this, you can see, I will show you here. You see this one? This is the foramen ovale, and through this foramen ovale passes what? Through it passes your mandibular nerve of the trigeminal nerve. It is going to pass through here. Just below through the foramen ovale, you see this small foramen that is called as the foramen spinosum. This one. This is the foramen spinosum, foramen ovale. Then you have the foramen, this one. There it goes, this one. Foramen lacrima. Then you see this big canal. This is called as the carotid canal, and through this carotid canal passes your carotid arteries. All right, then you have this big structure here. Let me show you this one. Where it goes? Wait, hold on. So this structure is called as your stylomastoid foramen, and through the stylomastoid foramen is gonna pass your facial nerve and the vestibulocochlear nerve. And that was for it. Now you see these structures, these big structures present here. These are called as the cricoid plates. These plates have a medial end. This is the medial end, and this is the lateral end of the cricoid plate. And on the posterior side, when you see behind it, they're going to form a fossa that is called as the cricoid fossa. Now they're going to form two facets here. One they're going to form here. Do you see this structure? This is called as your what is it called? Where is it? All right, so where it go? Yeah, this one. This is called no, that was not this one right here. This one. So on the inferior portion, it is gonna form a fossa, and that is called as your scaphoid fossa, right? Scaphoid fossa is present here, and when you will see on the top here, you will see this part, this one. This is called as your humulus. So on the inferior surface is going to form a fossa that is called as your scaphoid fossa, and on the superior side going to form a fossa called as your humerus. That was for the medial part of the inferior view of the skull. Now coming to this bottom view, which is the posterior view of the skull. Now here you can see this large structure, this one. This is called as the jugular foramen, and through the jugular foramen is going to pass your internal jugular veins. Then if you see this round structure, this is called the foramen magnum, and through the foramen magnum is going to pass your brain, your spinal cord, your brainstem, medulla oblongata, etc. Then when you see from here, you can see on top of it, let me clear it to you guys here. You see this structure, this is called as the hypoglossal canal, and through this passes the hypoglossal nerve. Then you see these two structures, this one on this side and one on this side. That is called as your posterior glossal canal. All right, this was the anterior canal through which the hypoglossal nerve passes. We call it the hypoglossal canal. Now coming to here on this bottom. On the bottom side, you can see this hole, right? This one. This is called as the external occipital crest. And here, where do you see this expansion? This one. Wait, let me show you. Here. You see this expansion? This is called as the external occipital protuberance. Then you have the two nuchal lines. This upper nuchal line is called as this one, inferior nuchal line, followed by this lesser one that is called as the superior nuchal line. And that was all called for your inferior view of the skull. So for a quick revision, we had this anterior part, we had the middle part, and we had the posterior part. In the anterior part, you had this structures, you had the foramen incisive, then you had your maxillary bones, you had the palatine bones, you had the suture present, which was dividing the maxilla into two portions, which were called as your intermaxillary sutures. Then you had the two palatines, interpalatine suture. Between the palatine and the maxilla, you had the maxillopalatine maxillary sutures. Then you had these two foramens, that was the greater palatine foramen, lesser palatine foramen. You had these two processes, which were called as your pterygoid processes. Then you came to the middle part. In the middle part, you had this medial view, you had this vomer. They give two alas. They formed two type of canals. There was the what is this called? Vomero-vaginal canal and the petrovaginal canal. Then you had the body of the sphenoid bone. Then you had this basilar part of the occipital bone having this turbulence, which is called as that was called as the pharyngeal tubercle. Then you had these two. These were called as the pterygoid plates. It had a medial side and a lateral side, and they consist of a pterygoid fossa on the posterior view. On this upward, it formed another fossa that is called as your humulus, and on the inferior side, they form a fossa that is called as the scaphoid fossa. Then we told about that the lateral views. They had the three types of bones. This was called as your petrous part of the temporal bone. You had the greater wing of the sphenoid bone. You had the squamous part bone. All right, what else you had? Then you had the different foramens. We told that Foramen Lacrima was present here. You had the Foramen Ovale. You had the Foramen Spinosum. Then you had the carotid canals. Then you came into the posterior part. You had this Foramen Magnum. You had the Jugular Foramen present right here. Then you had your hypoglossal canals, which were present right here. You can see these are the hypoglossal canals. Then you had these two ones. These were also canals of the posterior part. All right, then you had this nuchal lines which were present. This is the nuchal crest, which is called as external occipital crest. Then you had this protuberance expansion called as the external occipital protuberance. Then you had the two nuchal lines, which were called as your internal and your inferior nuchal line and the superior nuchal line. Apart from that, we just left one thing, that is these two expansions which are present here, and these are called as the occipital condyles. That was for your inferior view of the skull. Hope this will help you understand it, and for more videos, like and subscribe my channel. Thank you.